it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday culture storytelling event, which we share stories about travel, food, history, lifestyle, and people stories. Now we're having more and more people coming. I will just get started. Today, we have a topic on Latin America. Latin America consists of 20 countries and 14 independent territories. 3 main languages are Spanish, Portuguese, and French. While we will invite 4 speakers from very diverse countries of diverse backgrounds to join us today. They are Ricardo from Mexico, Mishell from Guatemala, Jose from Panama, who we hope to join soon, and Sayuri from Brazil. Meanwhile, I would like to invite everybody to type in the chat box which continent you are based. And I am going to spotlight one speaker after another for them to introduce themselves. First, I am going to spotlight Ricardo from Mexico. Would you please introduce yourself? You need to unmute yourself first, I believe.
Hey, hello, how are you, Minnie? Very happy to be here with you. Thank you so much for the invitation. So I am Ricardo Lopez. I am located in Mexico City, and I run like Airbnb experiences, basically coffee experiences. And I have this indigenous exploration to a coffee plantation. I'm also the community leader of Airbnb here in Mexico City. So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here with you, and thank you for the invitation again. Good morning and good afternoon.
Yes. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us from Mexico City. The next speaker I am going to add spotlight, Mishell from Guatemala.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mishell. I am from Guatemala, and today I'm going to talk about my city. I am not a guide tourist, so you are going to see my presentation through the eye of a tourist guide, from a tourist.
So we will get a perspective of a local tourist from Guatemala. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. The third one will be someone we're very familiar with, Sayuri from Brazil.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. Long time no see. So I'm Sayuri. I'm a tour guide here based in Salvador, Bahia. Actually, it's very interesting to talk about indigenous here because this is basically the place where our colonization started in the south of Bahia in the 1500s. I'm very, very happy to be here. Usually I do my tours like on city and the favelas, or talk about food, but it's also good to talk about our native people that were here. Then my family, half of my mama's family actually come to the islands. That's where we had indigenous. And so I do have some indigenous blood on my body too. So it's very good to talk about that.
Great. So thanks for the 3 speakers for the self-introduction. We hope Jose will be able to join us soon. Before each of you elaborate on your specific experience or exploration, I am going to launch this true or false quiz for everybody. So the first quiz, true or false, over 80%, there are over 80 uncontacted tribes living in Latin America. Is it true or false? Okay, people are coming with answers. I'm gonna end the poll now and share the results. There are over 80 uncontacted tribes living in Latin America. 80% of us choose true and 20% of us choose false. This is false because there are over 90 uncontacted tribes living in Latin America. So that's it. That's our first quiz to have a little bit fun. Now I am going to give the floor to Ricardo. Ricardo, you run an indigenous coffee exploration for Mexico's indigenous tribes. I'm going to spotlight you now for you to give us a overall overview, what exactly that is and how did you get into it?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen because I prepared a little presentation for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the coffee exploration, but I want to talk about a little bit also, it's going to be like a very fast presentation, but the situation of tourism in Latin America and how my adventure relates to that. So I really wanted to start with this quote with the United Nations World Tourism Organization. And just, I'm trying like to make a point in here because if we try to define the sustainable tourism, then we need to address the needs of everybody, like the visitors, the industry, the environment, the host. And this seems kind of very challenging, right? But I think it's like insanely important that we like start moving towards there. But I just wanted to make like this point of how challenging it seems to be. And so during the pandemic and even before the pandemic, but especially during the pandemic, like look at us now, like we are connecting from all over the world. So even though we were all in lockdown, we managed to actually connect with people from all over the world. Now I have friends in Asia, in Vietnam, in Brazil. And even before the pandemic, this was the tourism trends, like the visitors, international tourist arrivals trends. And I love this graphic because you can see that it's growing really fast, but especially in developing countries, you can see that it's growing even faster. And I think this is very, very important because at least for Mexico, the touristic industry has become like insanely important. So this is like really, really good for us because it's good for our economy, but it's also very risky because there's a lot of like good impact, but also not very good impact. And I want to show you something that I find like really interesting. Well, first, for developing countries, like we usually rely, or I'm going to speak for Mexico, but we rely a lot in raw materials, like in commodities. Mexico used to be one of the top 10 economies in the world. And that's because we used to have a lot of oil and we rely on oil a lot. But then the oil prices have been coming down and down and down and down. So our economy is struggling a lot. So tourism has become like a way to balance the system or a way to actually have some income in the country. And that's because Mexico, and I don't really know if this is good or bad, this is like a really good topic to debate, but Mexico is like very cheap. The food in here is very cheap, labor is not very well paid. So that makes developed people countries come to Mexico. And is that like a good way to balance the system? I don't really know. So let's try to address all these questions. So this is the contribution of the oil to the GDP in Mexico. So you can see how it came like from almost 10% all the way to 3%. And we used to rely on this like a lot. So we are struggling right now. And this is the contribution of the touristic industry to the GDP in Mexico. So it's actually like going all the way higher to oil. So I think that this is very interesting, but this is where the risk is. So yeah, we are having some economic development, which is, it's good, but then we have a lot of risks involved. Like we are exploiting the natural resources. Some of the cultures are like at risk. And then this is very important, the unfair distribution of profit. And I just put these 3 points in here because I want to focus just in these 3. So the whole concept of sustainable tourism is like really complex and very broad, but I really want to focus on these 3 points. And to give us an example, I want to tell you about this Airbnb adventure that I have. I have overall more than 35 Airbnb experiences, but this one is really, really special for me because first, to give some context, Airbnb adventures are experiences that last for more than 1 day. So actually, this is going to be a 3 days experience. And the whole concept is that we are going to visit this Aztec community in the mountains of Mexico, in which they harvest coffee. And this is a very important community for me because I am in the coffee business, I run coffee shops, I run coffee experiences, but everything started when I was in college. And in Mexico, it's mandatory that you do social service. So I decided to do my social service in this community in the mountains and work for this cooperative that harvests coffee. And I realized that it was one of the poorest communities in Mexico. So I decided to come back to the city and open my very first coffee shop just to help them sell their beans. So that was 11 years ago. So from that moment to today, like my circumstance is totally different. I run one of the most emblematic coffee shops in Mexico City. I have one of the most successful online experiences in the world. It's a coffee experience. So even before the pandemic, I decided to launch this experience. And the whole idea was to give back to the community. So in this experience, all the profit goes to the local community. And I think that's very, very important because I was talking about the unfair distribution of the profit. So in the touristic model before, there was a lot of middlemen, like agencies. And usually the agencies were taking the people to the place, but the profit, the income was not staying in the place, actually was taken by the agency. So just how Airbnb works in this share economy, I think it's amazing because Airbnb is managing to keep the profit in the local host or the local communities. So the closer you get to the community is going to be better for the community. So in this case, not even me, I do not get the profit. It all goes to the coffee community. So that's one thing. Then example number two, in this community is an Aztec community. And to be very honest, they are very closed. Like they do not allow many people to enter the community. They are very, they do not trust people. I'm guessing they have enough reasons for that. But I was invited to launch this adventure in the pilot of Airbnb Adventures. So they were sending people to take pictures and videos of the community. So they told me we need to send a team. And I was like, there's no way we can go with a team of people taking pictures and big cameras to the community because they are not going to allow us. It's not respectful for them. So I was saying like, if you don't want me to be in the pilot, that's fine, but I'm not gonna do that. So they finally decided that it's okay. So my adventure, I think, is the only one from the pilot that doesn't have a professional pictures and videos because I didn't want to disrupt the system. And finally, this is in the middle of the mountains. So we have like waterfalls, we have a lot of coffee. So when I go there, I really like make the point on how we need to take care of the resources. Actually, we stay in this hotel, which is eco-friendly. So they have like solar panels for the electricity and they capture all the rain from the sky. And that's the water that we use. So I think that this is a great example of how to work under the sustainability tourism concept. But while preparing this presentation, I was like reading a lot of things and doing a lot of thinking. And I came to the conclusion that so far, sustainability or sustainable tourism is not profitable. So that means that it's not going to flow naturally. So how do we really achieve sustainability on tourism if it's not profitable? So if anybody wants to share some thoughts in the chat, and well, that's the presentation. Also, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Wow, that's
thank you. Thank you, Mindy.
fantastic. Ricardo, this is a project lasting 11 years, started from your experience volunteering in the community to today. You launched an Airbnb adventure in the middle of pandemic. Ricardo, may I ask, since you mentioned this indigenous community is very closed, how long did it take you to gain their trust if you were an outsider? And how did you do that?
I think that's a very interesting question. So I used to live there for 2 months. And I think I was able to build like very strong links since the very beginning. But I think that was because I was very aware of many things. So first, I have the feeling that me coming from Mexico City, usually people from the city, they think that they have the correct ways and they want to impose that. And since the very beginning, I was very aware that that's not true. They just have like a different worldview and we both learn from each other. And I think that's very important. Second is that at that moment, and still now, but I was like just being very interested, trying to help. and I didn't want to take anything out of them. So a lot of people, they want to do documentaries about the community. They want to bring tourism. So they are actually there because they want to get something from them. And that was not my case. I was just there because I was interested and I was connecting. And I have like in Mexico, I don't know if this is true for some other countries in the world, but people is gonna ask you to be the godfather of their sons. So you get to have like a lot of godchildren or childrens. So I have like 15 godchildren in the community. So I think that's very interesting. So I get to go to all the parties all the time.
So the secret recipe is to have curiosity, not just take, but adopt a lot of grandson, godson.
Yeah. That's the clue.
Fantastic, Ricardo. Thank you. I'm now going to spotlight Mishell, so that I'm gonna spotlight Mishell and remove that. Mishell, over to you. I know you recently, after such a long lockdown in Guatemala and working from home, you made a holiday a few weeks back and went to the forest, went to where the Maya heritage ruins are. We'd love to hear more of your experience about your holiday.
Yeah, that's true. From so many months staying in my home, I went to a local place here. It was a trip that I paid in February from last year. So I use it this year. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. So I don't know why. Here. As I said before, I am not working as a tourist guide here. So this is my adventure as a tourist, as a local trip here. So hope you enjoy it. So this is a photo of the city of Guatemala. Welcome. And this is the map of Guatemala. As you can see here, we are neighbors to Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. And I live here in the city. And today we are going to travel to Petén. If you want to go there, you can do it by car. This trip could last like 10 hours, maybe. Or you can do it by airplane, and it could last 45 minutes. So it depends how you would like to enjoy this experience. And welcome to Petén. You are going to be here. This is the entrance of the Tikal National Park. Here. I don't know what is happening here. So this is the entrance of the Tikal National Park. And Guatemala, it's called the Mayan world because you can discover the Mayan culture here. So when you are traveling here, you have to be very careful because you can meet someone who is living in the jungle, like this kind of people or animals. And if you are lucky enough, you can meet a jaguar too crossing the street. So you have to be very careful when you are driving there. This is our one of our national symbols. This tree is called La Ceiba, and this has a powerful meaning from the Mayan culture. I'm going to read what our tourist guide told us about it. And La Ceiba, it's a tree that is the link between worlds. Its roots, the connection to the underworld. The base of its roots, place where the humans live. And the trunk and branches, the dwellings of the gods and the entrance of the heavens. When you are in front of that tree, it's very, very big. As you can see here, this is a person here. So the tree is almost 70 high meters. So it's a beautiful tree that the Mayans always place in the center of the plaza. So please pay attention to these noises. What do you think they are, or who are making that noises? You can hear them everywhere in the park, and it is so interesting. And if you don't know who are making that noises, sometimes it's kind of afraid.
Some Mark said it's monkeys, and I said monkeys, birds. We would be scared, and I thought it would be lions.
Maybe. Maybe.
Jaguars, birds.
No, they are monkeys. Mark is
Wow.
correct. Yeah, they are playing in the trees everywhere, and you can hear them everywhere in the while you are working there. So as you can see, they are there. So this is a short video of the Great Plaza. When you are working there, you can see all the temples and the ruins that are there, like this one. These are two temples, one in front of each other. And the name of those temples are, one of them it's called Temple of the Grand Jaguar, and the other one is Temple of the Mask. And you just can climb one of them, this one, because this one was close to the people to climb it, because it was the stones were, or you have to be careful with them. So you just can't climb this one. And you can see this mask too. This is located at the left of the Great Plaza, and it is 90% recovered. So this is a big one, and it is so beautiful to see all the structure of the art of the Mayan people. What for me, what's so powerful to see. We are going to continue. This is the next temple. It is called in Spanish Serpiente Bicéfala, that in English could be a snake of two heads. And you can climb it too, but it is too high. And if you want to see the top of the temple, you have to take 190 steps to be at the top of them. But if you are there, you have to do it. Maybe like very patient, but you have to do it because the top of the temple is, you can see this view that it's so beautiful. Here is the Great Plaza, the last video that you see before. These are the two temples that we see, and this is the view. That day was kind of cloudy, but when you are there, it's so breathtaking. You can feel the nature, you can feel the noises, and you really want to stay there for a long, more time than you have to. So you can be there, you can sit, and you can enjoy the nature and the forest and the jungle, everything. So this is Tikal. UNESCO designated the ruins a World Heritage Site in 1979, and today Tikal is a national symbol for us and a source of pride in the past. So if you want to know more about Mayan people, there is a book called Popol Vuh. I'm not telling almost anything about culture Maya, but it is a culture that we have to read about it, because they were so intelligent people that when you are there, you always are thinking, how do they do that? How do they think about it? So I don't know. I feel very proud about it, about our heritage. But if you want to be in Petén, you can visit Flores Lake. You can take a walk around the lake too, like here, or you can take a trip by boat and to see another villages that are surrounded the lake and how the people live. And if you want to see another sites, archaeological sites in Petén, you can visit Jaguar. That it's not as big as Tikal, because Tikal is 575 meters, kilometers of park, but Jaguar it's more. It's not like Tikal. Or you can go to Topochte too. This is another site of Tikal. Or if you can swim in a natural reserve, you can go to the Crater Azul. This trip could last 1 hour by boat, and you can be there and swim, and it's a natural reserve. The water is blue and you can see through it. So it's a beautiful place to stay. So you are welcome to Guatemala, el corazón del mundo maya. And we are waiting for you to experience this. So before I said goodbye, someone wants to say goodbye too. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mishell.
Thank you.
That's your pet.
Yeah, I have it in my backyard.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, of course.
As many as Ricardo's godsons. But thank you. Thank you. Are you sure you don't work in tourism? You just put out such an interesting virtual tour for us. You are absolutely qualified to work in tourism, Mishell. Yeah, thanks for showing us such beautiful places. Yeah, and do keep that pet in your backyard.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
A little cat.
Great. Thank you, Mishell. And now
You're
I'm
welcome.
going to invite Sayuri. Many of us are very familiar with Sayuri, but today is probably the first time, Sayuri, to talk about indigenous Brazilian culture.
Hello, everyone. Can you see me well? Because can you hear me well? Can you see me well? Good. Well, as you may know, my name is Sayuri Koshima. I'm half Japanese. So that's why it might sound weird. My name on my face, I don't know if you know, but we have the biggest Japanese colony in the world in Brazil. And I'm going to share, let me just see here. I don't know why I cannot, I'm just, okay, just stop sharing this. don't know why I cannot share properly. I'm just
While you're working on that, I'm gonna just launch another survey for everybody. True or false question. Latin America, true or false? Latin America is the most urbanized region in the world. Is it true or is it false? Ah, okay. Answers are coming. 70% of us participated. I'm waiting for a few more. I'm gonna close the poll and share results. So 40% of us think it's true. 60% of us don't think that's true. Well, 40% of us are right, with 80% of the population living in cities. Latin America is the most urbanized region in the world. So another quiz for us to know a little bit more about Latin America. Sayuri, are you ready or should I share another poll?
No, it's okay. I don't know why I cannot share the whole page, but it's okay. It's just quickly. I can just do whatever. How is this right now? It's like we're not going to see the full screen. I don't know why I cannot share, but it's okay. I just want to quickly introduce you to my country and my topic. Can you see?
Yeah.
And it's not full screen. I don't know why it's not full screen.
Life is never perfect.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I have no idea what happened with Canvas now, but my name is Sayuri. I come from Brazil. Brazil, we have, I think we are very well known for being the country of Amazon. We have the largest area in Amazon in the world. So also we have been spotlighted in the some of the worst news about environment in the last year. Especially due to some changes that our government is doing in our constitution. And I want to just give you a quick introduction about indigenous life in Brazil and also sustainable tourism that we can do with those tribes or with community-based tourism. Okay. The second picture. It is actually, that our most visited city, of course, is Rio de Janeiro. But if you don't know, the first place that actually European arrived in Brazil was actually where I come from, Bahia. The map on the right, it's called the Atlas Miller. It is a map from 1520s, and it's showing exactly, the move from Europeans to come to America in the early 1600s. Okay, Brazil was colonized by Portuguese. We are the only country that speaks Portuguese in South America. And Rio de Janeiro is not our capital. Our capital is Brasilia. Lots of people think. just let everyone know. I know everyone here probably know, but it's very funny how many people in the world think that Rio de Janeiro is actually our capital. It was our capital. Salvador, where I live, we were the capital from 1549 until 1763. And then Rio de Janeiro was the capital from 1763 until 1960. But right now, the capital of Brazil is Brasilia. One of the reasons was actually to put, the power of the country in the middle of the country, to take away the shore area. Because what happened is our biggest cities in Brazil, where we have the most of the problems, when we talk about indigenous life or when we talk about huge population in cities, like chaotic cities, a little bit of chaotic cities, it's by the shore. Okay, so Rio de Janeiro, Salvador, Recife, we are all by the shore because that's the most populated area in Brazil. Also, everyone knows Brazil, I think right now, because recently we have two major international competitions right here, the World Cup in 2014 and 2016. And for your surprise, okay, I'm just sharing you some numbers. COVID actually hit us really bad, okay, in 2020, but actually we were having a decrease of international tourism. One of the reasons were recently news about Zika, recently news about, the problems that Brazil had in our economic, politics, so actually we have been having a decrease of tourists here, and the majority of our tourists comes from South America. Just for you to have an idea, In 2016-19, we have 6 million international tourists coming to Brazil. That's less than the Eiffel Tower. Eiffel Tower, receives more international tourists than the whole country of Brazil. And now talking about, indigenous, maybe you don't recognize because might be very small in your screen, but this person in the right is Sting. I think Sting, as far as I can remember, was the first international, pop star actually to come to Brazil and to get involved with the indigenous people. And that had a more like international, how can I say, top list on the news. Okay, he did some projects, especially with Amazon Xingu. That's a book, it's in English, so you feel like having. Some people have no idea, but we have some indigenous tribes in Brazil that are still isolated, that never seen TV and are isolated. One of the things that this is possible, it's because our constitution in 1888 made some indigenous land protected. Okay, so basically, we have lots of, although we are very well known of the burnings in Amazon, but our constitution in 1888, the constitution is from 1888 because that is the redemocratization of the country. We had military years from 1960s until 1980s. In 1988, we have a new constitution. That is a very liberal constitution, actually. Along the years, we have been developing also a tourism-based community. I'm part of the group of tourism-based community. In my hometown, we have more than 40 different experiences that you can have. And I liked a lot the first talk in Mexico because it's exactly like that. When you try to develop a sustainable tourism, when you try to develop a tourism-based tourism, it's very different than a mass tourism. We have to be focused that the money that comes from that activity has to return to the community. Otherwise, it's not a sustainable tourism. You have to make, during pandemic time, I did a course about sustainable tourism. Actually, we are finishing the course now. It's like 1 year course on sustainable tourism. It's very difficult for us to think of that because usually we think what is cheaper. So what I usually do is to make this tourism sustainable, each one of us, we need to think, how can we make it sustainable? So sometimes to pay more for something that is handmade, and then you're going to pay for a local artist in the area, it's going to be much more expensive than something that comes, from different countries or from different areas in Brazil. But you as a tourist, you have to be willing to do that. So sustainable tourism, it doesn't depend on us. Sustainable tourism depend on the tourists that come to the destination and look for that and wants to pay for that. Sustainable tourism is not cheaper than mass tourism. That's what we are not really able to think. So we have a very good base of sustainable tourism. It's TBC, Turismo de Base Comunitária. I'm part of that. So we have lots of experience here. One that I like a lot is one that is just where my family comes from, in Taparica Island. Part of my family is part of the tribe that is called the Tupi in Brazil, the Tupinambás. So actually, if you come to Salvador, if you're interested in, we can cross the islands where my family comes from, and you can visit the Quilombo. Okay, those are Black and Indigenous descendant people that they had show you experience. So this lady that on the bottom part, she's actually playing samba because they didn't have instrument. And that happens also to my family. I remember being small and the samba in my family was made with a plate and a knife. That was the instrument. Also, you can see how the palm oil is made, handmade. So it's like an experience that you have here. And this is one of the articles of our Constitution. And on the 7th of February, we celebrate the National Day of the Fight for the Indigenous Right. So em português, são reconhecidos aos índios suas organizações sociais, costumes, línguas, crenças e tradições, os direitos originários sobre as terras que, tradicionalmente, ocupa competindo onde são demarcá-las, proteger e fazer respeitar todos os seus bens. That means that they recognize the indigenous right, organization, custom, language, and traditions. And the federal government, a União, the federal government should, demarcar means should, make, we call reservas florestais, like to make like national parks for the indigenous. But this actually doesn't happen because we still have just one official language, that is Portuguese, although we speak currently in Brazil more than 15 languages, indigenous language, but they're not considered, official. So that means that they're not taught in the schools. So actually, if our constitution, were put in the right place, instead of teaching just Portuguese, we would officially also teach indigenous language where these indigenous language are still alive. Okay. One of the things that you all know that we have as a problem is like the fires in Amazon. Last year and this year, unfortunately, we had, enormous fires, especially comes from, the agribusiness, Amazon forests, besides have the cuts mean trees, there is some indigenous territories in Amazon that underneath them, they just found gold mines, and also because of soya production in that area. So what happened is those fires are done on purpose. So that area can be considered not protected anymore, and then you can actually use it for agribusiness. So this is one of the things that we are having currently in Brazil right now. And we have had protests for this whole year. One of the here you see that from indigenous tribes. Fora Bolsonaro means we don't want Bolsonaro. And PL 2633 is a projeto de lei. It's a project to change our constitution. That currently it's on our Congress, and they want to change it. They want to change the way the current we protect the indigenous land. So if you see in the news, like PL 2633, this is all about the change that the Congress wants to do currently right now. It's already being approved. We already have many, protests against that. But right now, the current situation about the indigenous tribe, it's very, how can I say, we have to keep our eyes on that because it's not just of COVID. COVID, it is a major problem for everyone, of course, for the indigenous too. But the worst problem that we're having in the country, it is like sometimes COVID covers, lots of politics moves that no one is aware because everyone is so worried about COVID that lots of things has been done in our country and people are not aware of that. Out of the blue, we are going to see a new law being, approved, and people are just worried basically about COVID. So we have to get a balance between worrying about COVID and keep our eyes in our politics, status.
Thank
this
you.
Is the situation in Brazil. I'm sorry that I could not.
15 minutes is not enough for you, Sayuri. 10, 15 minutes isn't enough for you.
Yes.
So you deserve much longer
I just see
time.
the chat that COVID is often used as an excuse to do things wrong, exactly like that.
Yeah.
So I think me, Mishell, and Ricardo, we face the same thing. COVID is being an excuse to overprice vaccine, to do things that we don't want to because, it's necessary for COVID. So COVID is not just healthy. It's also an economical war. Like there are lots of money involved in COVID.
Thank you, Sayuri, for sharing the indigenous culture in Brazil. I was just reading an astonishing figure when preparing for this event. When Columbus first sailed to South America, there were about 1,500 languages being spoken in the continent. Today, the number of language remains is 300. So we're looking at in rapid diminishing, disappearing of a lot of languages and culture. Now, I am going to spotlight Mishell from Guatemala, Ricardo from Mexico, and Jose from Panama. Welcome, Jose. Welcome to join us. So we have a little panel discussion. Before the panel discussion, Jose, would you like to introduce yourself very briefly? Sorry, we miss your part today, but I'm very glad you are able to join us at the moment.
Hi. Well, I'm really sorry. Actually, I was at the national park, and that's the place I wanted to do my presentation. But suddenly there was a thunderstorm, and I need to get out of the park. So I went back home, and I'm here now. But yeah, I'm Jose. I'm from Panama, and I'm very happy, to be here. And I'm actually very into what it's all of you have talked about, especially Mishell and Sayuri. I miss Ricardo, but yeah, that's very true about COVID and everything that's going on around the COVID emergency, right? So yep, thank you.
Great, Jose. Next time we will arrange the weather to be better, so we can have a live stream from Panama, the forest, with you. Audience from all over the world today, feel free to type in the questions so I can relate the question to the four speakers. But the first question I want to ask everybody goes back to what Ricardo was saying when he was sharing his views and experience. He said, sustainable tourism, it's very hard to be profitable. So the question going to everybody is, maybe I'm very ignorant, but would you, whoever wants to take up this question, would you be able to give us an example? What's the difference between a sustainable tourism product experience versus a mass tourism product? Whoever wants to take this up.
I can make a very easy one.
Please.
Sustainable tourism, like when you go to a community, okay, for example, if I go to Guatemala, to a small town, a sustainable tourist means that you as a tourist, when you go there, the money that you spend there needs to stay in the community. So if you book a guest house that is not, you're not looking for a fashion experience. If you're looking for a guest house that the owners are from Guatemala, if you're looking for a guest house that hires people from Guatemala, you're going to leave your money in Guatemala. If you're going to Guatemala and if you just go to a very fancy, resort that is a Hilton resort, the money doesn't stay in Guatemala. So when you think about sustainable tourism, you have to think, how can you go to that community and how can you keep the money there? That's what I say. Sustainable tourism doesn't depend on us, depends on you. Sustainable tourism depends on the choices that you make as a traveler. If you make the choices as a traveler, you have a sustainable tourism. All over the world, you can help sustainable tourism, even if you don't have a tour company that works as sustainable tourism.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going back to Ricardo on this. Ricardo, you designed an Airbnb adventure where you're hoping to save the money, contribute the profit all to the local community. How did you come up with this idea and how did you design this sustainable tourism experience? What was the process and why was that happening?
Nice, thank you. Well, I came with the idea first because Airbnb was launching the adventures, but also because at that moment in the community, so they rely a lot on harvesting coffee. And because there's a plague in Mexico and in a lot of countries in Latin America, it's like let's say like a bacteria or like a fungi that is killing the plants. It's called Roya. So this community, they went like to harvest all the way to almost zero coffee. So they were struggling a lot. So I was like, we need to do something in order to be able to contribute with some money so they can buy new plants. So everything they came together. And to be very honest with you, how I designed it was very easy because I used to go like really often and I love it so much that I was like, I'm just gonna like share these things that I usually do with people. So it was like very natural design. Yeah.
Right. Oh, thank you. And the next question goes to Jose. Jose, we were missing the nature from Panama. And the question to you would be, you used to take tourists to the forest and the parks in Panama City. How does pandemic impact this and impact local tourism in Panama? And what do you see the future will be for tourism in Panama?
Well, very, very interesting question, Angie. Before pandemic, 2019, we have received around 2.5 million tourists entering Panama. And that gave us around $45 billion to the economy of Panama, representing almost 80% of the GDP of Panama, only on tourism.
Wow.
Only tourism, and having directly 100,000 people working for tourism. COVID came, pandemic, and everything stopped. Those amount of people didn't come here anymore. We opened or reopened last year in October, but closed once again in December and shut down. We shut down once again in December. So that was a big hit for tourism. And now until March of this year, it's that we have, let's say, reactivated again on the phase 6. That was all the last portion of the whole group. And that's where basically the whole tourism area was. Hotels reopened and events start to open again, of course, in very small amounts. Now, in nature, directly speaking, that's what it's actually getting to get the most. Many local people, many Panamanians are now hitting the national parks. I work together with Cruces National Park, that's where I was this morning, and we are trying to impulse the Panamanians to visit their parks. It's a park that it's no more than 20 minutes from Panama City. And you got a national park that is 5,000 hectares, which you got a lot of trails, and you got a historic trail there that it's about colonial times. So that's what it's hitting. The future will be then trying to get small groups, trying to get a lot of bird watching groups. That's also one thing that we're pointing to. And one of the plans that for the government, it's to try to improve actually the effectiveness of the management of protected areas. And that's actually, I think, one of the most important things, because if we don't improve that, then the protected areas will be lost, as Sayuri said, because, and that's why it's happening right now. A lot of the areas around the national parks are being segregated because they are not considered to be national park, and suddenly they are doing a mall, and suddenly they're doing whatever of the government. So hopefully, we can keep our 34% of protected areas of the whole entire territory of Panama that is protected safe. But well, that's not what we are heading to. This small groups for nature.
Great. We got thank you, Jose, for sharing your actually love for nature and a passion to protect reserved areas in Panama. We got an audience question here. It's fascinating hearing about Airbnb adventures. Do you think there is a contradiction that sustainable tourism is being managed by a giant tourism company based in San Francisco, or is that needed to develop large-scale sustainable tourism? Thanks for the question, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. That's definitely a very interesting and kind of difficult question. I do not think there's a contradiction. And I am going to say that there's no contradiction because I know firsthand the values of Airbnb, and I know how important it is for them to actually have a good impact on communities, how important it is for them to actually respect communities. And I have this, for me, it's one of the most beautiful examples, and it's in Latin America. So actually Airbnb, it's in Cuba. And I know many hosts in Cuba. I was aware of the process of opening Airbnb in Cuba. And suddenly it became one of the most important sources of income for many people in Cuba. And that's very, very important for the people in there, and that's very important for the company also. And maybe the business in Cuba is not profitable for Airbnb for sure, but they have like this mission and this goal to actually have a positive impact in there. If that's needed or not, I don't really know. I don't even think that Airbnb is managing the whole sustainable tourism in the world. It's just one example of something that came in San Francisco, and for me, it's working really well. Maybe there are some opportunity areas for sure, but I do believe that they have these values like very clear and they work towards that. So I don't think there's a contradiction.
Great. One question on innovation. Now with COVID, still so many of us are not able to travel overseas because everybody, the 4 speakers in the group, you speak such fluent English. I assume in your daily work, you interact a lot with international tourists, English-speaking tourists. With the declining, like at the moment, the numbers probably are not as many as we used to host. What are some innovations you have done, or you plan to do, facing the situation that at the moment still not a lot of international tourism will be able to make it in traveling in Latin America? So it's a question for everybody.
Well, I can answer first because I have a very fast answer. So basically during the pandemic, I launched the same adventure. I was trying to launch it online. It's kind of impossible, but the whole idea was the same. So I talked with the people in the Aztec community. We bought some equipment for them, like something to connect to Wi-Fi. And we ended up having a virtual experience of the coffee plantation with the indigenous community, and all the profit was going for them. So I think that was really, really beautiful. And it's still running. So I think that was really cool.
So Ricardo, is it okay for you to send the link? Because I didn't know you have a virtual experience for the coffee plantation. It'd be lovely if you can share the link in the chat box. So everybody,
totally.
we have time, we would, because we can do it from our home. So that would be fantastic. So thank you, Ricardo. Who goes next?
Well, I specifically, well, in innovation, of course, everyone has become virtual. And that's, I think that something that will stay, and that will give you opportunity to travel around. So one of the things that we are doing with the group I'm with, it's actually almost the same thing as Ricardo, having a live, and that's what I wanted to do today, live action directly from the park. Actually, we are thinking about putting several guides of us in several places of the park in which we get signal. That's another thing. And then we can transmit and just explain what we are seeing from our point. If we see monkeys, if we see some animals, whatever, we can show and also talk about it. So that's, let's say, one of the things that we have not done yet, but it's in the project that soon we can launch.
Great, Jose. We are looking forward to meeting the monkeys from Panama City one day if things work out well. Thank you, Jose. That's lovely. Yeah, who goes next?
I can. Yes. I think I can talk quickly. It's like how I love virtual tours. I really love it.
I know.
I love to be a tour guide, and I love to actually watch the experience like I do with my mom. And if you think about that, okay, I'm not going to do that, but if you think about that, should avoid the massive tours. Virtual tours can be very good in certain parts of the world. Okay, for example, Galapagos, or for example, even Amazon. If you could digitally somehow could spread, the experience, like in a way that the person, of course, it's not just like going there, but some places in the world, we need to control the amount of people that goes there. because it's too many people. Like it's too many people in the beach, it's too many people in the park. But we have to make people earn money of that, because some countries, Brazil, we don't depend only on tourists. Okay, we are the biggest country in South America, you know, like ninth economy in the world. So tourists, it is a important role in our country. I work 100% with tourists, but you know, the country doesn't depend on tourists, only on tourism. But some countries in Latin America depends maybe 60% of the economy, even more on tourism. So it's really different. But what I'm trying to do, I've already talked to you, Minji. I back to real life, to real tourists, basically 100% with Brazilian. We do have a few international tourists here. You know, Brazil, we never shut our border. There is a reason why we have more than 600,000, more than 500,000 people COVID deaths here, because we never really shut the frontiers of the country. But I really want to try to make virtual tours better, to promote my destination. And also, I really think we have to start spreading the news that virtual tours, it's a way to make sustainable tours, to make money to local people. I'm trying to share shopping tours. So I'm trying to show, you know, local shops online. I have had 3 or 4 clients that bought, you know, art, bought handcrafted through my virtual tours. So if we could do it, you know, imagine that Guatemala, Mexico, you know, like you can have people buying coffee from, you know, local coffee plantations, from local handcrafted people. There is a way to do that. We have to think in a way all together how to make it possible. Virtual tours can be a great way to actually keep people earning money. The money goes directly to the local person, because anyone with a connection, they can make it happen. And I think it's a great idea. It's a great way to do. So I want to keep it doing. As I said to Minji before we started, I'm thinking about doing a YouTube channel, and my tours will be, of course, you know, thinking on helping my local community. So us as tour guide, we have to think how to help local communities. It's not just me earning money. I really want to help my local community to earn money. That's a way to make a better world in all the ways that we can think.
You are so right, Sayuri, because maybe not everybody of us has the time or money to we can afford to travel or to all these remote villages and tribes, but using the power of technology, we somehow can transform the shopping experience, retail experience, tourism experience. Maybe that comes as one of the answers to Ricardo's question, how we can make sustainable tourism profitable. It's one way to do it. Finally, going back to Mishell, from a tourist perspective, did you come up with any innovative ways to travel this year?
Well, actually, I haven't see a lot of virtual experience from Guatemala. I don't know why, as I am thinking about it right now, because I have seen a virtual experience from Brazil, Mexico, Panama, but from Guatemala, I haven't seen it. But for me, it would be nice to boost a natural trip too, because we have a lot of nature here. We are like we have Petén is like the jungle. It's a big forest, and when I was there in Tikal, I really feel safe to take off my mask and enjoy nature, and that is one of the things that I really love to do more, because we need that, a local experience. I have traveled outside my country, but I really love to do it more inside my country, because I think our people need us. One of the our tourist guides told us was that our tourists were local. They were like 75% of the people who are traveling to Petén were from Guatemala, and 95% maybe were from outside the country. So it is so difficult for them to stay with that salary, you know, because they depend of that money too. And I am 100% I agree 100% with Sayuri with everything that she said. We always, as a tourist, sometimes we ask for a discount for local people who are making something, but it's so bad because we don't ask for a discount in a restaurant or in a mall. You don't go to Zara to ask for a discount, but when you saw something that it's handmade, you always ask for a discount, and that's bad because you don't have to do that. You have to enjoy. You don't know how the people are making that, how much time they are like doing that. You have to enjoy that too, and you have to respect the work from the local people. And as Ms. Sasha said before, we have to ask for a tourist guide too, because when I was in Tikal, I really loved the experience with a local guide, because they told me a lot of things of the Mayan culture that I didn't know about it. And it was so powerful, so meaningful for me to know that. So you have to ask to that, because some people said, I don't need a local guide. I have to do it for cheaper by myself. But you really need that. You really need
Mishell, it's worse than that. They say that they don't need a tour guide because they have Google Maps.
Yeah. That's true.
Google Maps. I have Google Maps, so I don't need a tour guide. Okay.
Yes, Amazon Forest, Google Maps says you're supposed to open by 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, but my recommendation is ask for a tourist guide when you are visiting some places. Don't ask for a discount for a local people, and really enjoy the places, and don't be on your cell phone all the time. Enjoy nature, enjoy local people. People from Latin America are
be generous, right, Mishell? Be
Yeah.
generous. Not don't ask for discount, but if that money it's okay for you to pay for that, pay for that.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. And in order for local guides to provide a sustainable tourism product better, more profitable, which kind of training would be good for local guides? It's going back to the perspective of local guides, what kind of training they need in order to host better,
I'm going to say something that I don't think is going to answer your question, but like something like awareness training, because I think that each of the contexts is going to be different. So maybe in one specific community, sustainability means a lot of respecting the nature, but maybe in other community, it means a lot like respecting the culture. So I just think that each of the hosts or guides needs to be very aware about their circumstances and his or her specific impact on that community. Because really, as I was saying before, I think that sustainability tourism is very complex, and it's very different on each of the communities, context, countries. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for our ambassadors from Brazil, Guatemala, Mexico, and Panama. You woke up super early today on a Sunday morning to give us such an informative and really, really fascinating session about your country, your culture, the nature, indigenous culture. Again, a lot of gratefulness from all of us. Thank you very much. This is super interesting. Thanks everybody for coming as well. I'm now going to invite Gary to share with us what's happening next week. Gary, advertisement time for you about next week.
Okay, I couldn't get my microphone working. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. Next week, Neil in Shanghai and I are doing another, it's kind of like phase 2. The reason is we did a program several weeks ago about space. And as a result, we were having such a good time that we didn't complete it. And now we're going to have phase 2 where we will complete it. And Neil and I have gotten together. His name is Joyo. However, he goes by Neil because he took that name because of Neil Armstrong. He is 11 years old. He's in Shanghai, and it's a wonderful experience for me to work with him. He will be talking most of the time, almost all of the time. And he's a very bright young guy. So we'll have a good time. That's it.
Great, thank you. So this is what we are trying to do with Explore Culture. We are trying to connect people from different parts of the world. Ricardo, going back to the map, how you got connected with people from all over the world. We want to keep that going. We don't want the lack of international travel opportunity to stop us from connecting with each other. We are also trying to create more opportunities for people to collaborate with each other. So Gary, who's in Florida, USA, and Neil, 11-year-old Shanghai Chinese boy, give us a role model of how to collaborate on a topic common of their passion. So thank you very much, everybody. Sorry, we overrun a little bit, but again, a huge thank you to 4 of our Latin speakers. We will see you next week. Bye.